Alright, welcome back to episode 2.5. Today we are going to eat the foam pad, apparently. But also, we're going to try and get the transmission on the motor and get the motor in the car for reals this time. So I picked up Jackie. That's not health food. Just because it tastes bad doesn't mean it's good for you. Picked up a throw-out bearing. I live in Timbuktu. I'm like 2 hours from any type of civilization. So this was all I could get available to me. It's a SKF, which is a pretty good brand of bearing as far as I know. It's Japanese made, so sit down. I know you're getting angry. You're about to yell at your computer screen. Be like, you should buy OEM. You're going to regret not buying OEM. You might be right, but this was half the price, and I could get it. I wasn't about to drive for 4 hours to get a throw bearing. It didn't come with a clutch alignment tool, like that kit I showed you guys in the last episode. It didn't come with one, so we're gonna pretend I took the clutch off. Yep, mint, and it looked brand new. So let's get this new throw bearing greased up, cleaned up, installed, and we've also got a dowel pin that's been heavily destroyed. So we're gonna change that out and then throw that tranny back in the motor. Yeah.
So here you can see I'm just popping off the old clutch fork, getting that out of the way so that I can start cleaning things up in here. Here I'm just hitting the surface area with a little bit of Scotch-Brite where your release spring slides in and out, just to help clean it up a bit. And we're also going to give the pivot ball a bit of a scrub as well with a Scotch-Brite. I had to clean up this old clutch fork as well. It was pretty manky. Nothing a good brake cleaning and scrubbing can't completely restore. Still a bit of grime left here in the end of the pivot fork from where the slave cylinder sits in it. So just giving that a better scrape out with my little wire brush here. And just gotta get off the residue with a rag. And as you can see, looking brand new again. Just gotta pop this spring clip in, make sure it's seated well in all three of its little grooves, and then you're good to go. Just adding a fine amount of all-purpose grease here to the surface that the throw bearing slides on. You don't want to go too crazy here because you don't want grease getting flung into your clutch, etc. So just add enough amount that there's lubrication, but don't go excessive. Most clutch kits you order will come with a packet of grease for this very purpose. Of course, I didn't put a new clutch in the car, so I just used some all-purpose grease that I had laying around. It's probably not the best, but it'll get the job done. You also want to add a little bit to your pivot ball as well. Next up is to install our release bearing. Off camera, I did add a little bit of grease to the inner race of that as well to ensure that it slides smoothly. Next, we're tossing on our clutch fork. You just got to line up the dimple in the fork with the pivot ball, and you just click it right in. And there I am testing it for smooth action, and it looks pretty good. Now on to change that crunchy little dowel pin. I ended up trying to get this thing out with a set of old channel locks I have. The teeth on them are pretty worn and the handles are pretty bent, so I ended up struggling with this for quite some time, as you'll see. And I'm too stubborn to get up and get the right tool, so I just kept on trying. Fast forward a minute or two here, you can see I've gotten this thing flattened completely out, and I'm still no closer to actually getting the dowel pin out of the bell housing. So I finally gave up and went and grabbed some vice grips. Gave the opening of the dowel pin a little bit of a clean off camera, and you can see here I'm installing the new used dowel pin. Just put a bit of lube on it, a few taps gently with the hammer, and home she goes.
Alright, Jackie. Witness me break my spine, girl. Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna run all the bolts into this thing, and Jackie's gonna help me, and we'll get back to you guys. Right, Jackie? Yeah. What are you doing? What are you doing? Okay, trans is all fitted. I've just snugged up all the bolts at a reasonable hand tightness. With it sitting on the ground, it kind of wobbles around when you really want to try and torque them down, so I'm going to wait till it's in the car before I torque them down. But one thing I want to show you was the previous clutch job. We knew someone had been here, obviously, with the damaged dowel pin and the marked bolts, but this is the incorrect bolt, so I'm replacing it with the correct one. That goes in there. And then these are the two half shafts. This is the half shaft from the red car originally. Hi, Jackie. This is the half shaft from the orange car. As you can see, there's a bit of damage here on the outer race of the bearing. Doesn't seem to affect it. It turns good, but I'm guessing someone whacked it with a pry bar or something, so I'm going to put this half shaft back in the car. So I'll get to doing that, and then we'll start working on the exhaust. As you can see, the exhaust studs don't even look like studs anymore. Basically rusted, welded right on there. Never coming off. So I'm going to take a zip disc, cut off the welded on nut from the flange, which will also cut the bolt off, and then we'll hammer the bolt out from this side out this way, and then we'll be good to go. Do that on both sides. Then I'll buy a new bolt and spring kit, which will not come with nuts because it's supposed to have the built-in nuts, and then I'll just buy 2 nuts that match that thread pitch, and I'll be able to put those on from above with the cowl off and the exhaust heat shield off. So let's get to making sparks. Just like that, pop right out of there. Alright, next. Okay, and just like that, we have clear holes that we can stick stick a new bolts through, and we'll just have to get some nuts. Alright, let's bolt this colossal beast back on the motor.
So here I'm just bolting the exhaust manifold back up. 2 studs go on the outside, and then the remaining hardware is just bolts. So I lightly run those into my impact, starting at the center, working my way out, and then I give them a proper torquing with the knot torque wrench. After that, I moved on to the lower manifold hanger, and then the heat shield for the rear half shaft.
Alright, and with that, motor is ready to go in its new home. You can see I left the exhaust heat shield off there. I'm going to leave that off. It'll make it a lot easier when we have to when the motor's in the car, we're gonna have to reach over the back here to put the nuts on the exhaust. That'll make it a lot easier, so. There she is, new throwout bearing. We changed the half shaft to a better one. Got the exhaust all prepped. Yeah, I think we're good. Just gotta find my motor mounts, which are somewhere in one of these cars. Okay, I'm just getting my bolts organized for the motor mounts, and I discovered that I had 2 mismatched bolts that are supposed to go in this end of the transmission mount, which go down directly into the frame in those 2 holes right there. And I realized they're mismatched. And that all makes sense, because remember I had the one mismatch for the bell housing, so this is actually supposed to be a bell housing bolt, and this is the one that was used as a bell housing bolt. It belongs there. So this should have been the bell housing bolt, which I replaced with the proper one already from my other swap. So that all makes sense now. But anyways, got the motor mounts all mocked up. I just want to make sure I had all the hardware for each component. So I've got it all set up here now. So I'm just going to hook the hoist up, plop that thing in there.
So here we can see I'm reusing the ratchet straps from when I pulled the motor out due to pure laziness, which kind of caused me to have a bit of a pain here. It took me about 3 tries before I actually got the timing side of the motor strap to work out. It kept popping off, and I had to revise how I had it. And anyways, as you can see, I finally got it, but not without trouble. It's funny on this time lapse, that motor shaking away up there makes it look like a big block just idling away with a big lumpy cam. You'll see I actually had to jack the car up there. I'd hoped I wouldn't have to, but I couldn't fit the hoist under the sway bar, so I had to jack the car up, put it on stands, and then I could actually slide the engine hoist into full depth. Here I'm just putting in the passenger side bolt so that that side of the motor is supported. I could let the weight off that side and then start to lift the driver's side and actually get my mount in place. So here I'm just struggling to shift the motor around so I can get the 2 bolts in there. I've already unhooked the hoist, obviously, so it's sitting under its own weight, but just ran them in with a ratchet, make sure I didn't strip anything, and yeah.
With that, the motor is in the car. Hopefully its final resting place. Probably not. But I've only got the 2 mounts holding it right now. The driver's side mount and the passenger mount are the only mounts holding it right now. I will install all the torque mounts off camera. None of that's too exciting, but yeah, pretty sweet. Motor's back in the car, and we're that much closer to having a running, driving, shitty project car. So yeah, I think that's gonna be it for this episode, guys. It was only episode 2.5, so it is just a short one, but hopefully you guys enjoyed it. And if you did, consider subscribing. And hopefully we'll catch you guys in the next one.
It's not a game, it's a